So we're rolling?
We're rolling.
Hello my friends. So, as you know, I never waste time. And I'm here in Norway, in Oslo, at the NRK building, waiting for Kongen av Sjakk to begin. And I'm having a little dinner break, and what better way to use the dinner break than to talk a little bit about the World Championship. A lot has been written and said about the process leading up to the match, the contract that was not signed but eventually signed, and so on. But let's focus on what happened during the actual match. I had a very good start. In the first game I had some minor problems in the opening. I realized during the game that the position was a bit more dangerous than we had thought before the game, so decided to try and find something else, which I didn't. But fortunately, he didn't find the most critical lines at some point, and I could escape into a drawn position. From then on, I started to outplay him. He was a bit indecisive. It's one of those situations where you feel that the position is equal, but with every exchange your position might be a little bit worse, and it's this kind of position you don't want to suffer in at all. And that can sometimes be difficult, because once you are forced to make a concession that feels uncomfortable, and while the position is still well within the realms of a draw, it's not a nice situation to be in. And so for the next moves, I managed to gain more and more territory. He didn't want to exchange queens, he didn't want to exchange rooks, and as a result, both my queen and rook became active, and his king was a little bit weak as well. So unfortunately, at one point I missed a key defensive resource. His move queen h1. Yeah, after that there was nothing. But nevertheless, it was a good start. In the second game, it was kind of a quiet anti-Berlin opening. It doesn't have any particular problems from the opening, but the position is a little bit non-standard, and in many lines I may gain a slight initiative, and that's what happened in the game as well. I managed to gain a slight advantage in the center, swing my rook to the king side, and although objectively there were no particular dangers for black, it's clear that I had the initiative and not very much risk. And once he tried to bail out into a position with no minor pieces, it was clear that with my activity and superior king position, I would have an advantage. When he missed the chance to prevent my rooks from doubling, and eventually my queen joining and tripling on the e-file, it was very difficult, and at the end he missed a tactical stroke, which meant that he lost immediately. The third game was, frankly speaking, a horrible experience. I changed my mind right before the game about what I was going to play. I was not well enough prepared for the line that happened in the game. He showed very good preparation and finished the game quite nicely. And I didn't have very many chances then. Clearly that was a big blow for me. After the first two games, I did think that the match was going to be easier than I thought before, and I thought that I was playing much better than him, and that would be the decisive factor. But the third game showed me that it wasn't so easy after all. The fourth game was another bad game. I didn't gain anything from the opening, but the position was still one with quite a bit of life in it. I gradually started to outplay him a little bit again, but then I missed the moment where I could have consolidated my advantage. I let him equalize, and then I played some really poor moves, and he could almost start to play for a win while I had little time. But fortunately, he made a mistake. He blundered a pawn, but in the end, it turned out there was no win. The fifth game was the conclusion of a very difficult part of the match for me. In that game, we prepared something quite different from what I usually play, but it turned out that he was exceptionally well prepared for this line as well, and he chose the line that was most dangerous for black, and one we had somewhat underestimated. So forcibly I had to go to either an endgame with 2 pawns each on the queen side and 3 pawns each on the king side, and he had the advantage of a strong bishop versus a weaker knight, or I would have a 2 pawn against 1 advantage on the queen side, but with a crippled king side, as in the game. So I chose to play with the crippled king side, and later on he could have created much more problems for me than he did. Frankly speaking, I was very surprised that he chose the way he played in the game, which caused me very few problems. I was lucky to have a free day before the 6th game, and I got some help from some Russian friends, and we prepared something much better against the Sicilian variation he had played. Surprised me with in the 4th game. Right from the opening, I gained an initiative in the end game. Soon the position was kind of a static nature where I had a clear advantage. It was not so easy to win, but he had no counterplay at all. Then, as many of you know, I threw it all away in one move. But sometimes in chess you get lucky, and he didn't see it. After that, the situation didn't change much. I did have to allow, though, his pawn to advance from a5 to a3, not to fall for the same trick again. But still, it felt to me that his counterplay should not be sufficient, and that I should still be better. And and that's what happened. That I managed to break through on the king side, and his counterplay was not enough. The 7th game was an important one for me, because I really wanted to put the match away. At that point, I gained an advantage in the Berlin endgame. He saw nothing better than to liquidate to an endgame with where I had knight and a rook and 2 pawns against a rook and 4 pawns. At the start, I was absolutely convinced that my position should be winning, and so I missed a moment very early on where I could have forced his pawn to advance to the a5 square, creating a weakness on the b5 square where my knight could later hop in. That would have given me excellent winning chances. As it happened in the game, it was much more difficult to win than I thought. Maybe it was not possible at all. I tried for a really long time, even with just knight and rook against rook, because I thought there was absolutely no harm in playing, but I didn't manage to win. The 8th game was a difficult one. When I woke up that day, I felt kind of sick, nauseated. It was not a good situation to be in. So at the start of the game, I felt pretty horrible. That's why it appeared to some that I was sleeping at the board. Then at some point my medicines started to kick in a bit, and I felt much better. The game itself, there was not so much to talk about. My opening choice was kind of risky, but the way he played, which was the most natural and also quite dangerous looking, was perhaps not the most critical way, and I managed to equalize and make a draw. The ninth game, there is not much to talk about there. My only real opening failure with white, about 16 moves, I didn't see anything to play for, and I decided to force a draw by repetition. The 10th game was another difficult one. I decided to change the opening again with black to play the Grunfeld defense. He also played something different, and we got a very complicated position. He has a passed deep pawn, but I also have some good piece play, and potentially his deep pawn could become weak as well. After some more or less forcing moves, we got to an endgame, which I had previously thought to be pretty harmless for me. I thought there had to be a way to deal with his d pawn, and my pawn majority on the queen side should be long-term very valuable trump as well. But I had underestimated his somewhat peculiar-looking construction on the king side with a knight on g5 and bishop on h6, that it could also actually cause my king quite a bit of trouble, which sometimes it's hard to realize that when the queens are off the board, that there could be a mating attack against the king. And so I was forced to defend a position where he had a bishop pair and a passed pawn, and he could certainly have done much better there. I was very surprised when he allowed me to take the e-file. That was a crucial moment. If he had taken the e-file himself with the rook, I would have not had the chance to activate my pieces in the same way, and I would have been condemned to a long and passive defense. As it happened, I managed to equalize, and he decided to liquidate to a draw before things got any further. Then in the 11th game, he chose a different variation of the Berlin defense, one that I'd studied a bit, but we didn't think was very likely to happen. I thought from the opening that I had the more promising position, and that my position was easier to play, but after a while it became more difficult to cover all my advanced pawns and pieces than I'd thought, and he managed to play this amazing b5 breakthrough, which is always in the air, but I'd missed on that particular moment. Then he had a lot of counterplay, lots of different possibilities, but fortunately for me he chose probably the worst one, sacrificing the exchange at the wrong moment. That was a relief for me. I thought after he sacrifices the exchange, I can in no way be worse. There should be a way for me to gradually extinguish his activity. As it happened, things went very quickly. I sacrificed a pawn. I got very excited, but I still managed to make a bunch of very good moves, and that decided the game immediately.